sort of looking at sort of the theme of excess from a very human perspective, and kind of the dynamics that exist within us that kind of like make excess possible. I'm also quite interested how those sort of dynamics can be exploited as well by kind of I suppose kind of like corporations and things like that. So those are the themes that I've been looking at. I've been sort of like looking at the very distant past and kind of like looking at sort of, I don't know, things like, I don't know, the Greek classics and things like that, looking at Dionysus, because that sort of seems to me to be kind of like almost archetypal. And then I've been looking at kind of things relating to maybe around like the 17th century, because again that was quite I think a pivotal time because of things like the Industrial Revolution, all that kind of stuff. So that, and I looked at Marie Antoinette and sort of that idea of absolutism and kind of like the divine right to rule, and kind of like how that can make people quite weird. And it's a weird idea anyway, but I think that idea still exists in modern day life. So I've looked at kind of things around like designer goods and how that creates a dynamic with perhaps people that might not have access to the finances to buy those, and how that dynamic can be played with and exploited so people can go and buy loads of crap. A lot of the materials, like the main body of the materials that I've used, came from a friend of mine. It's her old duvet cover. So kind of throughout the process, when I was talking to people about, I'm doing this commission, I've been receiving little packages from friends just through the post, and it might just contain like an old t-shirt or something, but I kind of was thinking about how kind of it takes a lot, especially now in the age of email, it takes a lot of effort to go to the post office and pack things up and do all that sort of thing. So I was kind of thinking about all the like the generosity and the care and the consideration and the kindness that went into that, and I thought actually those are really nice places to start. Those are in the work implicitly because of the material. So I thought maybe that is the solution to kind of excess. I chose kind of Marie Antoinette because initially when I was looking at the I suppose like the information for the commission, there was a picture of kind of some sculptures that Laura Ford had done. They were like little dogs, and they had like ridiculous kind of like big bouffanty sort of fur, and she sprang to mind, kind of, it reminded me of that period in history, like stupid hair and birds and boats and stuff stuck on top. And I liked just the sort of the ridiculousness of it all, because the way they looked was really excessive. So she had this like really big hair, and I kind of found that really interesting. So kind of like I channeled all these sort of characters that kind of sprang to mind. Like there's a bit of Marge Simpson, obviously, but things like Ivana Trump and kind of Patsy from Absolutely Fabulous. All these excessive characters were all channeled into her hair. And as I sort of like work on it, all these little ideas like pop into my head. So there's all these kind of little biohazard signs and kind of like sunglasses and things stuck in her hair as well. But also with the sort of Dante's Inferno, I was thinking about the idea of kind of, because obviously it's referring to hell, but I kind of like thought about this idea maybe that excess is part of a process. It's not sort of like a static place where people just stay, or they might, I mean she did, but I think it's more of a process. So kind of like in a way, I think relating it to sort of modern day life, I think where we're at now in this overconsumption is actually part of a bigger process that we're kind of going through as a species. And also kind of I was using, I use birds a lot in my work, and that always represents to me sort of like the more, I suppose, kind of evolved parts of humanity, sort of like soul perhaps. So kind of I was kind of thinking about the idea of maybe if she'd sort of accessed more of her soul and sort of perhaps didn't listen to this idea that she had this divine right to rule and do what she wanted. There is very sort of obvious sort of connections and storytelling, the use of textile and kind of sort of Andrew's work, my work, sort of Laura Ford's work. I think there's a lot of humour actually kind of in everybody's work actually, maybe not so obvious in some work, but there is this element of kind of dark humour, and also there's a lot of humanity. I think kind of there's this just very human theme of looking at the human condition, but there isn't like a judgmental sort of look at it, it's just kind of observing, and I think that those are very common themes in all of the work. So there is this process of once I kind of start stitching the design, kind of, because it's quite a slow process, I suppose like the initial personal meanings to the image start coming through for me, so it becomes sort of quite analytical in a way, and then sort of as I carry on working on it, kind of, I guess, the more sort of shared meaning of it as kind of like a human element kind of comes through. So it becomes very much a process of, I guess, like self-discovery really, and sort of, yeah, digging around in my own psyche a bit, digging for the dirt sometimes, and it's kind of, you know, it can be quite an intense process. So I become very aware of my moods and I'm stitching, and sometimes that's reflected in the work. So if there's a lot of kind of like busyness in the work, it's usually kind of like because there's a lot of anxiety, and sometimes there's, you know, kind of a lot of empty space. That's normally when I'm either really, really tired or when I'm feeling really relaxed. I want to sort of, I suppose, like talk to people about my ideas around this theme, and you know, kind of like, yeah, have a one-to-one conversation with lots of people. That, so I can do that from my work in perhaps a way that I might not be able to physically, and also kind of yeah, people can take their own meaning from it. I'm really excited about exhibiting with Andrew. I came across his work in 2015, and I just, immediately when I saw it, it's just got this like quality where it's very soulful, and it's sort of, I can't quite articulate it, but there's something magical about it. And when I found out I was going to show with Andrew, I was like, whoa, that's amazing. So I'm really excited about how it will look.
Stars, chungam, chungam, chungam. This is going to end inside. It's going to hold. So this one, I'm sewing to hold it together. Yeah, and then sew together and hold it together, and long one.
About what this is going to be, yeah?
Pardon?
You thought about what this is going to be?
This is the wheels. This is wheels for bicycle riding, people riding, and got fix it and jump, 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 jump. That's it. Got to dance. to Finkley, it's going to long journey, and go to airport and go down and go fly again. And the airplane is going to my country, to Uganda. All people sitting there. It's sitting down to long journey. Telephone is going to telephone. Man sitting in the office, and it's going to talk on people, and they talk to everybody. And this is a tie to go like this, go together like this, and hold it in the neck for pillows. This is camera. This is camera to look inside and showing people. And people saying, I want to look inside. I want to see it and to look. And this is my story. Is camera. It's come to look at the pillows, and the a change is for house. It's for house. It's still camera. People to look inside and feel inside. Feel inside. And it's softy and it's warm. It's warm and like I hold like that and turn like that and sit on here and brush like that. Dun, 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 dun. Big snake come. It's walking slow. It's walking slow and the wait is animals. It's sleeping and waiting water. And water is all of water or journey or big river. River, it's water is walking. It's very wet. Snake than very wet. And big river, it's big river. All of them there. And all small snakes, it's baby turn like that. It's baby it's sleeping there, sleeping inside. I like a move. Laughing. Oh dear. Oh dear. This one, long one, go together. Sublet.